listening to the IELTS podcast. Learn from tutors and ex-examiners who are masters of IELTS preparation. Your host, Ben Worthington.
Hello there, IELTS students. In this tutorial, Robert and myself will be talking about IELTS Academic General Task 1, letter writing. It's going to be mainly Robert walking us through this. We're going to be looking at cohesion and coherence, lexical resource, and task achievement. And Robert's going to give us a very detailed guide. However, if you're still struggling with IELTS General Task 1, then please get in contact. We've got a whole course about it. Lots of students are working their way through it, and lots of students have been joining the course recently. We've got Georgie, or Jorge, maybe, Ranjit, and who else? Oh yeah, Mr. Hanem and Mr. Pinichan, all going through the course, progressing really well. And we've seen some great improvements with their essays, and we'd love to see your essays improving as well. So without further ado, I'll hand you over to Robert. How are you doing today, Robert?
I'm fine, Ben. And you, how are things?
All good here, all good. Yes, progressing well. And I'm looking forward to listening to your tutorial today about General Task 1.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's been the time, isn't it? I mean, I think the last time we were talking, it was that letter writing. Yeah, Task 1 of the general training IELTS. And I remember the example I chose. I chose one which I thought was a little bit tricky, a little bit more difficult, because it was writing a kind of letter of complaint, I suppose. You know, that letter to the local council about the school playground that they were going to close in the area because the children don't use it very much. And remember, with all of these letters, you always have to cover the 3 basic points, the 3 bullet points. And this one, it was you've got to explain why many children don't currently use the playground, and then how important the playground is for the children in the area where you live. And finally, give some suggestions of how to make the playground a success in the future. Well, and I seem to remember we thought about how important it is to have a very clear idea about what we have to do in the planning part. Spending a few minutes planning your answer. It's really, really important. I can't underline that more than I have done, I don't think. Well, I want to go on to that in a little more detail today. I mean, we know that the examiner is looking at 4 different criteria on their marking scheme. 4 things: task achievement, coherence and cohesion, lexical resource, I mean, your vocabulary, and finally, grammatical range and accuracy. I think, you know, in this first session today, I want to look at the first 2 of those: task achievement and coherence and cohesion. I mean, let's put it very, very simply as I can. Task achievement, remember, really means something like answering the question. You know, those 3 main bullet points. And if we check the band descriptors of Task 1, which you can get online for free, you know, and just look it up. Task 1 IELTS writing test, band descriptors, you get the public version. To get a band 7 in writing, your essay must present a clear purpose and be written in what they call a consistent, appropriate tone, as well as, you know, clearly presenting and highlighting the key features and bullet points. Even though for a band 7, it says some of these points could be further extended or more fully extended. And if you move up to a band 8, it's very, very similar, except that it says, instead of clearly presenting it, it says all the task requirements have been covered. I mean, for the examiner, of course, I mean, how do you feel about these little differences between 7 and 8? It's not easy for the examiner. you get into it after a while as an examiner, knowing, when it's really a 7 and when it's really an 8. Is it, the clarity of the argument, covering all the main points? Let's have a look at it. As well as cohesion and coherence, which again is interesting, because if it's a band 7, it says this: you've got to have, for coherence, a clear progression of logically connected thoughts. I wonder what that really means. So the sequence has to be ordered in a logical way. For a band 8, this sequence is almost perfect. And the use of paragraphs is also very important, of course, and the use of what we call cohesive devices, from your ands and buts, your all those and furthermores, the way that you connect different parts of sentences together and different paragraphs together in a logical kind of way. If you do that very well, you're talking about a band 8. Yeah? And if you don't manage it quite so well, there's a clear progression, but maybe there are 1 or 2 gaps, 1 or 2 errors, then it's probably going to be a band 7. So, well, I don't know. Who would really want to be an examiner? I wouldn't recommend it to anybody, actually, because, deciding on a 7 or 8 can be a very tricky thing. How do you decide if there's simply a clear progression, or if the sequence is 100% appropriate? Well, I think, from your point of view, as test takers, the best way to convince the examiner that you deserve a band 8 rather than a 7 is to have a very clear idea about what a consistent, appropriate tone really means. Setting the right tone is the foundation for all the rest, the paragraph, structure, and answering all the bullet points. So what do we mean by tone? We can have a tone which is formal, maybe the one we're talking about. You're writing a letter to the council, your local council. You don't know these people. Dear sir or madam, you don't know them by name. It's very unlikely. So the tone has to be very respectful and very formal. Or it might be semi-formal. You're writing perhaps to a hotel where you stayed before. Or it could be informal or friendly. Those letter writing examples where you have to write a letter to an old friend. Write a letter to a friend, informing him or her that you plan to visit him or her in the near future, blah, 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 that kind of thing. So it's going to be a much more informal style. And that's what it determines what kind of tone we adopt in our letter. So our example obviously is very formal. And I think our overall structure was based on 3 bullet points. Remember, I just mentioned them a few minutes ago, why the playground is not used, how important it is for the children, and suggestions about how to make it a success. Okay. And of course, we're going to sandwich those 3 bullet points in between 2 other things, which are also equally important. A kind of introductory paragraph, which might only be just 1 sentence, and some kind of short conclusion at the end. So paragraphs, we're going to have 5 of them. The 3 main ones, a short introduction and a conclusion, and a very formal tone from the beginning. So how can we establish that from the beginning? Let's give it a try. I mean, what do you think about this? State your purpose, get to the point immediately in a formal way. I am writing to you. Simple as that. I'm explaining what I'm doing. I am writing to you with regard to the council's proposal to close the children's playground situated in the Highview area. I've given an example there of the name of the place where I'm pretending that I live. It's good to be concrete. Give particular examples. Let me say that again. I am writing to you with regard to the council's proposal to close the children's playground situated in the Highview area. As a local resident with 2 young children aged 7 and 9, I should like to point out the following. So I'm being very clear there in 2 sentences. Why I'm writing, where I'm coming from, what I am, who I am, a local resident, and look at the example I'm giving. I'm making it up. Of course I am. I'm saying I live there locally. and I have 2 young children, and I give the ages of these children who are likely to enjoy this playground. I'm also being quite formal in my verbal choices. I should like to point out instead of I want to. It's more formal. Okay, I'm stating my purpose, I'm saying who I am, and it's as simple as that. My 2-sentence introduction is clear in the sense that it's also quite formal in tone. No contractions, no contractions. No, I'm saying I am. Avoid the contractions in a formal letter. It's okay if it's informal to a friend, but not in this case. Remember that. So it's also important to maintain that tone throughout the letter without any variations. The examiner will be looking at that kind of aspect when it comes to cohesion, coherence, and also to task achievement. Okay, right, let's go on to the second paragraph. Remember, my planned second paragraph is where I want to outline the current issues with the playground. I mean, what's wrong with it? Why aren't children using it? Let me think. I think before, the last time I was talking to you, I gave some possible examples there. Examples are very important, be concrete. Problem with the playground, maybe the climbing frame is getting rusty, it needs repairing and painting, the swings are in a bad shape, one has been broken for months, that's why the children don't go there. So how about this? This is my second paragraph, at least the beginning of it. The main justification for its closure is that very few children use it. However, the reason why it's not used is because the facilities there are all in need of repair. The climbing frame is rusty and badly needs repainting, for example, and one of the swings has been broken for months. I gave examples. I'm also using, and when you get the chance to read this, what I've just been saying to you on the IELTS podcast website, notice the way I'm using synonyms. It's going to close. What's our noun? The closure of the playground. Huh? I use the word facilities, a general word to describe swings, roundabouts, all the different things you may find in a children's playground. I'm using a lot of connectors, cohesive devices. However, why it's not used? Because the climbing frame is rusty and badly needs repainting, for example. So the tone is also maintained, of course. Relatively formal vocabulary, justification, closure, facilities, the structures I'm using, such as the passive voice or its equivalent, the climbing frame badly needs repainting. That's a very good example of a kind of passive voice. Someone needs painting. It needs painting by somebody, but it needs repainting. That will score you high marks. Those kind of more complex structures in the writing test. And also, of course, the connection I'm making between the first 2 paragraphs. In my first paragraph, I wrote about the proposal to close. And then in the second paragraph, I continue the idea, the justification for its closure. But I'm not using the same word. I'm changing a verb to a noun. Okay, so I would like all of you, if you can, to try doing the same thing yourself with the other 2 paragraphs I proposed, the third and the fourth paragraph, the one where you want to make some kind of justification about why the playground is so important. Why is it so important? A lot of young children live in the area. Maybe a lot of young families live in the area. They need that space. Too many hours children spend these days in front of screens or televisions. Let them get out and play. What other things could you think of? Write your third paragraph. And then the fourth paragraph, perhaps the most difficult one of all, thinking of making a few suggestions as to how to make the playground a success in the future? What could be done apart from repainting and making the thing look nice? I don't know. Can you think of any good ideas? And what about the conclusion? How about this? I want to be polite. I'm not going to demand anything. I'm think of the formality of it. I'm not trying to say, do this or else. I'm not trying to frighten people. I'm trying to in the same tone. And I wrote this. I would therefore ask the council to reconsider their proposal in view of the suggestions I have made. I'm trying to connect it to what I've said before. I'm trying to maintain that very, very, very polite. I want them to change their mind. But instead of saying change your mind, which is a fairly neutral expression, I want to be much more formal. Reconsider their proposal. And then I use a phrase or an expression which is always, or not always, but very, very common at the end of formal letters. I look forward to your reply. We could also say, I look forward to hearing from you. I look forward to receiving your reply. But I chose in that case the simple noun, your reply. I look forward to your reply. And then I finish it with yours faithfully. You could say yours faithfully, yours sincerely, and maybe put my name after. So notice, of course, how it connects in with what has come before. I try to make it coherent. I want everything to join together in a way that it makes perfect sense for the reader, because that's what writers do. We are writing so that we are understood, so that people read what we say and say, I see, this is interesting. There's absolutely nothing there which is out of place. I don't give any excessive examples. I just give the right number of examples. I'm polite. I maintain my same tone. So, okay, I think with that in mind, what I would like you to do is give that a thought. Give some thought then to planning out your writing. There's nothing better than just doing it yourself. Practice it. Look at the examples I've given. Look back at the previous podcast that we had some time ago about this same topic, where we were suggesting different examples and different areas in those 3 different bullet points. Try it with this one. Try it with another one. Change your tone when you're looking at a less formal letter. Okay, so good luck with that. Good luck with that. In the next podcast, I'd like to go on to talk about the same topic, but with regard to the 2 other aspects in the writing band descriptors. In other words, the vocabulary, the lexical resource, and the grammatical range and accuracy. Okay, so it's goodbye for me for the moment, and I'll talk to you later, okay?
Thank you very much, Rob. Did a fantastic job there. I was taking notes as well. I love the part about the passive, using the passive structure and also using those connectors there. It's great advice. And also as well, getting the practice, getting in the writing practice and actually putting pen to paper. As you've heard me say on other tutorials, you can't learn to ride a bike by reading a book. And the language is a perfect example of that. You need to get out there and use it, whether you're speaking or whether you're writing. And if you are writing, then remember, we've got a very fast, efficient service for you to help you improve, to help you get the feedback. And when you get feedback, you can see your errors, and it just makes it so much faster and more effective, your whole preparation. It makes it faster to improve as well. And you can find that service at IELTSPodcast.com /essay-correction-service. And all of our online courses, not all of them, but most of them come with essay corrections as well. So that's what we really believe in, is just taking action, writing essays, getting feedback and improving. So if you are looking for more help, then get in contact at IELTSPodcast.com. And thank you very much for listening.
for listening to IELTSPodcast.com.